Today we are concluding the Masechta Kiddushin and Seder Noshim. Today's daf is at Pei Beis, and we are actually up to Pei Aleph on the Beis, towards the bottom of the page, by the two dots, right in the middle of the page. Pei Aleph on the Beis. So the Mishnah says, "Misyached Adam im imay." A person can lie, a child can can lie in bed with his mother. A person can be together with a sister, but only from time to occasionally, Rashi says. But if it does, but for always, you can be with your mother and with your daughter. Whether it applies to a granddaughter as well, we'll soon see. When they mentioned this to Shmuel, Amr, he said, I disagree. Also, you don't have anything to do with, you don't be close to any of that rice. I feel in behema. We'll see that. Tanan, it says now, Mishnah, Misyachid Adamim Ima Bita Yoshin Ima Mekir of Basar. You can sleep with them in the same bed, being close. But you to the Shmuel, how to Shmuel argue with the Mishnah? Amalach Shmuel. So Shmuel said, "With time, according to you, tell me how you live shot the Braisa. How to tell the Braisa? Your sister, your mother-in-law, Bishar Kolaresh, which are the aim Misyachid Imam Ela Be'edim, only witnesses. The Edim means Loy Be'edim Loy. Now, by Imai, the Braisa doesn't mention a word about Imai. So it could be the Braisa agrees regarding Imai. But Achoisei, the Mishnah says, Misyachid Adim Achoisei, and here it says in the Braisa, you can't. Ela Tanai. It's Machleket Tanai. What's Machleket Tanai? Tan we learned, Amar Meir, his order be Mipnei Biti. Careful. So from this Braisa we see that even a daughter and a father and a daughter is the same like a mother and a son. Even a daughter, when my daughter's with me, I want an Adim to be there to make sure that I don't, nothing's inappropriate. So therefore, from this Braisa we see they're even arguing regarding a mother. Be careful with my daughter-in-law. Now here, no one said you're allowed to with your daughter-in-law. So the kash is not from Rav Tarf. Kash is from Rab Meir, or the argument is from Rab Meir. My daughter, legal of Oisa Talmud, the Talmud, makes fun of him. What do you, obviously, his daughter was very young. He said, made fun of him. What are you worried about? Tarfon, the great Tarfon? This very person who's ridiculing the whole idea, who was scoffed at it, that this very, very Talmud ended up, was seduced by his mother-in-law. Then he said, I feel in behema. So we have a machlekes here. Talking about even with a behema, Abaya michlala mekula dabra. Abaya, when he was in the field, he would chase away all the animals. He didn't want to be alone with behemoths. These are all chumras. Rav Sheish is ma'ablei mitzvah. Rav Sheish would put them on the other side of the river there, because they shouldn't be together with animals. Rav Chanan and Adoi equal Rav Kana. Once Rav Chanan and Adoi came to Rav Kana from Nara, the edge of the river, he saw the Yosef could go to learn. It became a behemah. An animal was standing right before him. Amalei l'solamar feeling behema. Don't you hold that even the behema? Amalei lava dat toy. I didn't realize the behema was even there. I didn't notice. These are all chumras. Omar Rava says, "Misyachid adam im shtei yavam." We said before they shouldn't be alone with two women, and we said machlekes is showing them because they're going to protect each other, or because actually they're both going to get lulled into having it together. But these two women, we learned right before that 5 women that hate each other's guts. There's no way in the world they're going to protect each other. In fact, if they can allege that the other partner is a terrible person, they'll be happy to do so. So you're allowed to give me yachalom with 2 yavamas. They hate each other. They feel like rivals in state tzadus, or even they're not your yavama yet. They're married to your brother, but they, the potential. So there's a rivalry there. A woman and her mother-in-law. And we assume there's some rivalry there as well. And im isha, im isha ubas baila, a woman and a stepdaughter from another woman, is a daughter from another wife. Is already you're taking away my Kiddushin, etc. Im isha v'tanekis, or a woman and a small kid. Das tambi. If this kid understands what bia is, but has no interest yet themselves, so they'll tell people what's going on if anything going on. And they themselves won't be lulled into it. So then you can be together with them because nothing is going to happen untoward. The aim says but she herself doesn't have any interest in this in beer. It says in Mishnah, if they grew up, then they can go only in their clothing. The kama, what's type of growing up? We have 2 opinions. Tanoik is by a girl under 9 years old is good. After 9 years old, We learned it before already that shaykh to be, so therefore it's forbidden already. They're an adult in that sense. And Tinu ben Shtei Mezashon Yemechad, and by a boy, 12 years old. Iked Amri, Tinoik is ben Shtei Mezashon Yemechad. Others say no, that a Tinoik is also, it has to be 12 years old. And Tinik ben Sholosh Eser Yemechad, and by Tinik when it's 13 years old. The Zeh, whichever opinion you follow, there's another variable that has to be, they have to reach puberty. That means they have to reach puberty. If they're at that age and reach puberty yet, then it's all right. She has no shame, which demonstrates to us doesn't understand, doesn't have any desires these things. If she really has shame, also my time they have to kind of hide themselves. Because the Yitzhahara is already there. They already have an understanding, so therefore we have to be careful. You have to be careful. So the Gemara, but if you have these simonim, let's say maturity, but you didn't reach the age, we say it's only a shuma. It's only like a mole. It's only like a growth. It doesn't mean anything. Rabbi Achbar once came to visit Rav Chizda Chasnei, his son-in-law. So Rabbi Achbar was the father-in-law, and Rav Chizda was the son-in-law. Shokle lebas Bartech. Rabbi Achbar Yaakov took his granddaughter, Rav Chizda's daughter. He put him on his lap, or they went to bed and they shared the blanket together. They go to sleep. Don't you know that she's a married woman? She's engaged. Very odd that the father-in-law Zayda didn't know that. Or maybe he did know. He's just trying to be polite. He's saying, "Don't you realize? Maybe you didn't realize that she's a married woman." Because all this is talking about a punina if she's married or engaged. But from this answer, it seems like that he actually didn't know. The Bachbar said, "You're over on the words of Rab." But the Amar Rab said, we had it before. Amar Rab, he told me Rav Lazar, also Adam has the beginning of the second page. Also Adam she kaddish bit the kitana. You're not allowed to marry your daughter until she grows up. But time be playing on your rights. She can have an opinion exactly and say that's the person I want. That's what he said to Solomon. What do you mean you got to marry it off? Doesn't answer the question about why, but it sounds to me he wasn't invited to the party. So Chizah retorts, Marnami Abaled you also have a we had before, Amish Tamshabi, she not allowed to use a woman to serve you because then she's mingling with men and then comes a little bit of prutza. Amalei, he said back to her, Anoki Idach Shmuel said, I heard the other Shmuel. Amar Shmuel, Hakol L'Shem Shemayim. I didn't put in my lap, whatever, or spend more time with her, be close. Because whatever, thoughts, it's L'Shem Shemayim. What's interesting is what Rashi's title L'Shem Shemayim is. Rashi says, we'll just quote you the top line of Rashi, the top two lines, but ain't issues. I'm not doing it for any personal or whatever. I want to show that I'm close to my granddaughter. The last is and to give my daughter, give her nachas kishani mechabes bita, and that's called shem shemayim. You're giving nachas to a parent by being close to your grandchildren, giving them presents and everything else is l'shem shemayim. Interesting. And Teisha says here, the alzu on the same can hashta. This is what we rely on today. We have women serving men and all that. It's all l'shem shemayim. What's l'shem shemayim about stam women? I don't know. He does. This is not limiting it only to the case of the granddaughter. But what we see from here is that he took his granddaughter in close to him, which means that what we said before, that a father and a daughter includes a granddaughter as well. Others disagree, but that's what it seems. In fact, those who disagree, they all ask for this more here. It took him, according to the Shainim, it means the lap, like I said, it means actually took him in bed and to share the blanket together. Says the Gemara, look in Teisha Yazok in the last line on the right side. Teisha says, "She yoshin ima bekira basa, she hinicha tachas bigdei mitasei." Yeah, so they share the blanket. Unless the others learn that that's not pshati, they learn maybe just like I said, it's having a lap. Mishnah. Continue with the laws of Yichud. A single person should not be safe, should not be a teacher. We'll see in a minute why not. And neither should a woman be a teacher if she is single. Rabbi Elazar says, "Af misha ein isha," even if you have no wife. So it's the same thing. You're single. We'll see what he's adding. Don't be a teacher. If you're single, you shouldn't become a shepherd. You shouldn't have two single people sharing a towel. Even though we learned more Sanhedrin about Yehuda, 6 people used to be under towels together. He's saying, but he shouldn't go to sleep. 2 people sharing a towel. What's going on here? Says the so we're saying here the Chiddush's mission is, even though it's your panasa, even though it's a question of panasa, which is very important, nevertheless yichud comes first. Setting one of my time, but what's the reason why can't a single person be a teacher? Is the reason why? Because there might be something happening between you and the little kids. But Tanya, we have no daigas whatsoever. We have no concerns about mishkav zacher or relations with behemoth. That's why we argue. Ella Ravik. So that's why the one before about Abaya was all chumras in the Gemara. Ella and of Sheshes. If you're a single guy, mothers come to bring the kids to school or pick them up, and you'll have relations with some of these women, only married women. And Isha Mishum Abasinuka, same thing, the woman should be a teacher because the fathers of the kids bring the kids to school and so on and so forth. So should be single. So what's Rabbi Elazar adding? Is he saying that that you had a wife, Amol, but right now you don't know? The Tanakhama is saying you're single, you're a bachelor. He's saying you were married once, but unfortunately, whatever it is, she's no longer your wife, or she passed away. Is that what he's adding, that you shouldn't be a teacher? Even if you're married right now, but if you're in one city and she's in another city, you shouldn't be a teacher. Toshma, yeshli says the Braisa, even if you have a wife, but if you have a wife, and very much so, because people are human, and we had all those Amoraim before the Gemara. Yeah. That's right. So have to be very careful. Yichud. Exactly right. So interesting that Shmuel before said that we're worried afal behema. We just had before. Must be even Shmuel was saying, forget about the Abaya and Avsheshes. Even Shmuel himself was af behema was just being machna, because he can't argue the Mishnah. And that Brisa that he quotes doesn't say behema, does it? So therefore, that's not very decided. The horse. It's better a horse of a yid than a wife of a we'll see that. We also said Almana shouldn't be alone with a dog. So you want to further. Now that we spoke how important business is, so the last Mishnah therefore goes back to business. We had it in the Chavtas, where there Rabbi Yehuda said that a parent has an obligation to teach a parnasa to the kid, that you have to teach him a livelihood, otherwise malam listing. But look at this last Mishnah. First we talk about yichud. If your geschäft, if your parnasa is a dafka, a women's geschäft, be extra careful. Don't be meyachid with women. What's the chiddush of this? Rashi learned. That's why yes, his machlekes. This is what Rashi is. Rashi says a normal person cannot be with 2 women, but with 3 women you can. Because Rashi learns that what's chashash of 2 women? Chashash they'll both be involved. But once it's gone more than 2, we're not worried anymore. So 3 women you're allowed to. The chiddush here is that if you are a person, whatever, I think even 3 women, 4 women, 5 women, you shouldn't be involved because you get very intimate. You get very close. You talk about whatever you talk about. Other Rishonim holds the Rambam that a man should never be alone with women. Doesn't matter how many women there are. Doesn't matter how many women there are. And the chiddush here is that it's also, even though his wife is in town, and we learned before that the husband and wife are in town, things are all right, but not in this case, because you're much more intimate here. You're not, it's not hello, goodbye. This is, you're talking about personal things. You're teaching a kid a trade. We said before, a profession. Don't teach him a profession which is, a beautician or something like that. As we'll soon see. Amir says, teaches your son a trade that is easy and clean. And we should daven you should daven to the one who decides if he'll be rich, who owns the whole world. Interesting what he says. There's no trade. I was just in Los Angeles, and the driver of the taxi was an actor, and he was driving this Uber. Not taxi, Uber. He was driving this Uber because you have a profession that can make big money. There's no trade. That's exactly right. He had no parnos. Okay, I'm saying so. There's no trade that's guaranteed you'll make money, and it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Just because you're trained as a lawyer doesn't automatically mean you make money. There's no such profession that you guarantee poverty or rich. It's up to the Eibishter. The rich or poor does not come from the profession. Everything goes according to your schus, or others say it doesn't mean schus. It means your mazel. Taisa says over here, it means not schus, but your mazel. Because Bonner, Taisa says Bonner Chaim Mezayna is not totally in schus, only in mazel. We have my cotton. Oh yeah, but Yavamas. That if there's Shalom Bayis in the house, there's a Baruch in the house. We also had a Moikot in the Mazel. We also had in Shabbos that Kuf Mevod, a Mazel. So Rav Shimon ben Elazar says he goes further. Have you ever seen an animal that has a profession? Life for them is easy. They find food every day. And the purpose of the animal kingdom is to serve mankind. I was created to serve the Eibishter. Isn't it only right that I should be mefarnim myself without any pain? The only reason is because I don't deserve it, because I must have done avedis. So I forgone from my parnasa. So therefore, it's up to us not to work harder, but to do tshuva and to ask the Eibush, like a mayor says, the same line as a mayor. Shimon Lazar. Abba Gurian, each Sadian Oimishum Abba Guryo. Must be related to each other. La Yilman Adam is Benai. Do not teach your son the following professions. What should you teach your son? Don't teach your son Chamar and to be a rider of donkeys, or Gomel, a rider of camels, as associated in why, or Kader. Some say means a potterer, and some say means somebody who rides wagons, who gives people rides on a wagon, of course, and a coach, let's say, or Safan, a sailor, Roya, a shepherd, Chenveni, don't be a storekeeper, She'umnasan umlis listim. They're all ganovim. Those who travel, they take fruits from the side of the road, even though it belongs to somebody else, or they take twigs, whatever they eat for themselves. And a shepherd, we're talking about a shepherd of his own animals, because he would take animals and graze in other people's properties. A chenveni, we're worried that he will add water to the wine, thinking people won't notice, or he'll add little pebbles to the wheat when he weighs it, so that he can make they're ganavim. We don't trust anybody. Rabbi Yehuda says in his name, Hachamorin Ruben Yisrael. Those people who in Abu Guria, those people who ride donkeys are mostly the Yisrael. Bagamolin, the camel riders, Ruben Kshedim, they're much more kosher. Why? Because they go in the wilderness, dangerous places. So they're constantly davening to the Eibishter. So most of them are kosher. Now, this, according to many, this is arguing the previous Gemara. Yet it says Mishmoy. Because before he said they're all Ganovim. Gamol and Ganovim. Now he tells me he's Ruben Kshedim. Can you be kosher and a Ganif at the same time? Why are they changing the daven to the Eibishter? Because their lives are in peril. They don't feel they're in control. And they're Ganovim because they steal things inside the road. So, but Gamolin are in the wilderness. There's nothing real to steal inside the road. And yeah, Rashi says that they're not only the daven to the Eibishter, the people are usually with them. Or maybe not. Yeah, you're right. But Ruvan Kshedim. So maybe it's possible to be kosher because it's Rishmoy Abaguri, same guy. Maybe it's possible to be kosher because, as Rashi says, Mishabrin Eslibim, they're brokenhearted, and yet they got enough. Asafani, a sailor, Ruben Chasidim, way beyond the Kshedim, because they mamish pray to the winds and to the climactic conditions, and they're counting diving to the Eibishter. They see the Hashgacha more than anybody else. And Toiv Shebereifim Gehenim, the best of the doctors on Gehenim. So Rashi gives a number of reasons why. First of all, they don't get worried. The whole idea of a person getting sick is so they dive into the Eibishter. He doesn't worry. He knows the remedy. He knows the antidote. Doesn't have to worry at all. And he eats only healthy food, so he hardly ever gets sick. And therefore, he's not a broken person. A person who's in tzaddah, he's got tzaddah, so he's sick, he's constantly diving into the Eibishter. This guy is good because he knows what to eat, what not to eat. He goes, take care of himself. Like it's a bad thing. I'm not sure what Rashi is saying.
He feels like a morach.
Yeah, but that means that we shouldn't be too healthy. Rashi say, yeah, if you're too healthy, you do exercise an hour and a half every day, and you only eat vegetables. And then he says, sometimes he's a murderer. He gives the wrong medicine, he gives the wrong prescription, and then Rashi finishes off that he won't service a poor person, no pro bono. Now, there's a beautiful story in Blichem Magid. He had a chassid. It was about Shuvah. And prior to that, he was a doctor. So one day he came to Chiddush, which the Maggid said to him, "What's he doing in that profession?" He says, "About Balagola, he rides horses." So the Maggid said to him, "But you're a doctor. Why don't you continue in your profession?" He says, "Because he started learning the Gemara and he came across this Mishnah, Toiv Shebarei from the Gehenim." What do you need that for? So the Maggid said, "You don't understand Pshat in the Mishnah. Pshat is like this. The problem, there's two kinds of doctors. There are those doctors that realize no matter how many skills they have, their skill set might be top notch, the Abish at the end of the day decides you can do the same operation on two people. This person is going to survive. This person is going to die on the operation during the operation. So he realizes at the end of the day it's the Abish. Then you have doctors who are so sure of themselves and so cocky that it's all up to them. One of the brachas of Shemon Esrei is for Einu Hashem v'Neirav. The Abish is the ultimate doctor. There are 18 brachas of Shemon Esrei. So Toiv, those people who only believe in 17 brachas. Toiv shebereifim. They don't believe in the bracha ben Shem Neirafei, Gehenna. But if you believe in all 18 brachas, of course you go to Gan Eden, you're saving people's lives. Even though there's a famous Ramban that says you shouldn't go to a doctor and so on, but that's not how I'm going to. Then he says, Hakosher shel tabachim, that the best of the doctors, butchers, should for Shalom Aleik. The best of the butchers should for Shalom Aleik. Why is it should for Shalom Aleik? Because the Pashup Shai, like Rashi says, because if he has a suffix treifa, he will try to do. In fact, that's why the Vad Arba Rotzes came along and made a takana. This is in the 1600s. Again, a takana that you cannot be a butcher and a sheikh cannot be the same person, because then you have a vested interest in making sure your animals are kosher. Because the goyim know that you can't drink an animal, they charge you, they give you pennies for it. But if the sheikh is somebody else, he'll pass it independently. But Taisus, Taisus Yazakin says a fascinating thing. Look in the second mid-wide line on the very bottom of the page. What do you mean, Toiv? Don't be mafashim this. What do you mean? What do you mean that Toiv shetabachim? The Eastern mafashi. See the second line in the bottom. The Eastern mafashi, that those who learn shehaumnis melamde arzorius. Even if you weren't an arz in the first place, you're killing animals and you're standing there watching them. It brings out a certain cruelty. Afilu hatoiv shebehem arzori. Zera Amolek. Can you imagine? Now we actually had in Moshe Shabbos of Kufn Vov that who's a sheikhet is somebody who was born on Shabbos because that's the Mazel Maidim blood. But that's what he says. It was always the same. Tabachim thing. But I think Rashi says we're scared that he'll the treifus. It's an amazing thing. Don't tell us that he's a sheikhtim because we want to have good from a Yorish Shemayim sheikhtim. And yet we call them Rak HaMolek. Wow. Strong words. Anyhow, Rashi omits step shot. I guess he didn't want to tell us. Okay, let's continue. Something about it further. Rab Naroi says, I'll leave behind all the trades in the world. I'll teach them only Torah. The only thing that you get schar in this world and the world to come. All other trades are not that way. The person gets sick or gets old, they suit him, or all kinds of punishment, or you suit him, he can no longer perform his work. How do you measure? There's no pensions or social security or welfare. He will die from hunger. Even if he's not shy to learn right now because he's not well, it protects him from all kinds of bad things. When he's young, it also gives him hope when he gets older. There it said that those who believe in Eibishter have hope in Eibishter, they feel young, they're energized. That you will still be flourishing, and when he gets older, he'll still get his reward. The Mishnah Berurah in Simon Shazayin talks about on Shabbos that what you can do, and talks about it that it says this for him. He said there's a machlekes in the Mishnah if you're allowed to, if you only one of these things kedusha, if you're allowed to read books on Shabbos that help you for studying, and if it's a mitzvah to learn an umus, then yes, if not. And the Mishnah Berurah says that there's a machlekes in the Mishnah if there's a mitzvah not. Meir says you have to teach your son an umus, and Abnarai says. Finish in the same way. However, if you remember the Gemara in Eivin of Gimel base, the Gemara in Eivin says Loi Rab Meir Shmoi El Rab Naharoi Shmoi. V'lo Monika Shmo Meir Shemeir Eini Chacham. It's the same person. So there's no machlekes here. But what's Takab Shad? How can he argue with himself? So it must be the Shad like this. No, to the world at large, an average person, he says, teach a trade. But the Mishnah Pigiyava says you have to Talmud Torah and you have to teach them, the Cheretz. Yigia Shnei Mishkach Hazoven. Right? If you have Torah and the Cheretz and the job, Mishkach Hazoven. But my son, myself, B'ni Ela Torah. My own home. Torah is more important than anything else. And they will help.
Interesting. So a pasuk differently for someone else. But I have parents.
Yeah. How many Rabbanim we have? This is a famous thing that comes to Australia. Everybody's complaining that they give a hechsher, but they won't eat from it. And people say, "Oh, how could you give a hechsher and eat?" What do you mean? Apidin is kosher, but I want to be machmer. People don't understand the musig that you're machmer. But he did the entire Torah when he was young. He did the entire Torah when he was young. Either he was 3 years old, 48 years old when he was Makkah the Beta. He did the entire Torah. It says, he did the whole thing except, of course, Bris Milah, where he got the, as Rashi said, he got the advice from Mama, don't do Bris Milah yet, because he's being Mechabel himself, and you're not being Mechabel yourself. And also because you can't do it a second time. Wait today, she gives you possibly a mitzvah. All other mitzvahs you can do a second time. This one, once you do the Bris, it's done. Second one, done what we learned. Anyone who has a parnasa, a woman, surah, it's a bad, you're going down a bad road. Kigoyim, for example, hatzorfim, those who melt gold to make jewelry for women. The hasarikim, and those who make nice clothes for women. And those people who clean out the water, the mills at home, who grind wheat, which usually are the women. The harochlin, and those are peddlers who sell spices. The hagardim, the weavers. The asaporim, and the beauty salons, the hairstylists. The kaifsim, the launderers. The hagora, the one who diminishes, which is a makis dam, somebody who extracts blood, and that's very intimate. The habalon, the one who takes care of the bathhouses, and the habursiki, and the tanner. I guess also they make nice pocketbooks, clothes, and shoes, and everything. I know what I said, but today pocketbooks and all that kind of stuff, and shoes, as she says, and clothes. You don't point a king or a kohen gadol. My time, Eloi. At my time, why? Because there's anything wrong with this particular job. It's a pasnish. Just like before that, man, other panels but we don't want to do work for Hesse in front of 3 people. Here also, pasnish, these kind of traits. So let me learn. I started on them to be good. That's 10 things said about a person who's a makis dam, who lets blood. First of all, he walks around with his head high as if he owns the whole world. As if he owns the world. Because he thinks he's saving lives and everything else. So he walks around so proud. And people need him. And he's very, arrogant, full of hubris. He doesn't sit down, he leans over there. He's a ganzer ashkabahag. The Einot Soda, he's very stingy. Because he hardly ever has to spend. People come to him, have to have a good meal. They always bring extra food and he eats from them. He hardly spends any money on himself. Because he doesn't spend money on himself, he has no idea. That's why it says in the pasuk, Tzaddik oichel l'soiv nafsha. Tzaddik eats and they eat a lot. Why? Because if they eat a lot, then they know that when they machnas oidach, they give them a lot of food. If they themselves hardly eat, just pass the metal teichel, what are they going to give their guests? The same thing. So the Einot Tzara, the Einot Ra. And he has he looks at people that are healthy and he feels very bad. I want to get sick. I need a parnasa. So he always looked bad at people. He eats such fine food that he hardly goes to the bathroom. The choshed ala rois, because he has all these women that are quite intimate. Bala gezel, he's also choshed on stealing. Why? Because the women sometimes go to him without their husband's knowledge and steal their husband's money. So he's the cause for that. I'm not sure why you can really blame him. He asked them whose money it is. And sometimes he lets out too much blood, leaves behind less than a pint of blood, less than a vase of blood, and people die. What's a new nekia? A light and clean. I'm going to read the reader says, Machte the Talmud it is a what? What it means, but embroidering in a certain way, rows, or in a field to be in a farmer in the field and making sure that everything grows in certain rows. So therefore, you have no shaykhs to anybody and you're on your own. There isn't a job in the world that disappears. All the jobs are necessary, except those people who make whips for horses, and those people who make fax machines, and so on and so forth. There isn't a trade that disappears from the world. Lucky is a person to see. Now, usually Hoida means parents. Here, Hoida means children. So, interesting expression why that's called Hoida. He sees his kids doing a nice trade. And woe, that's to see his kids doing a bad trade. For example, It's impossible for a world to exist without spices, nice spices. But like Burski, also a tanner. Tanner, we had in Morchagig, there's a terrible job, it smells terribly. Lucky those who work with perfume and all that. But the world needs both, but doesn't mean you have to be in it. EF has a mabasa. EF the world needs men and female. What does that even mean? So I heard a bit of shot. It doesn't say. It doesn't say what do you call Ashley Misha Shazaroi Zachodim V'Oile Misha Zara in the cave. It says Bonav. It means that if your son behaves like a girl, and we didn't know what that means till the last few years, and wants to transition, oi. Sorry. So if Bonav is Chodim, great. If Bonav want to be in the cave, then you got Hakbasaris. We finally now understand Pshat more properly. Well, having more of a basket of Chizah said that Bas Tchila Simin Yafel of Bonim, it's the best thing to have daughters and so on. It says, well, it says, by the way, at Hoyd of Rashi says it's your Lodov. I just want to know why when Hoydov became his parents. It says the Eibishter. I never saw a deer having a profession of drying up figs. I never saw a lion being a freight courier. I never saw a fox being a storekeeper. The Haim is farnesim shaloi betzad. You have to have panosa. The Haim on Yibul Sham Shein, they're here to serve me. My need is Sham is just kind. He's a bit more detailed about the Mishnah. And I here to say the Eibush, my Eilu shaloi Yibul Sham Shein. Mis farnesim of Psad. My niche really Sham is kind. Anything she's farnesim of Psad without pain. Elisharais is Masai. It's my fault. The Kepachti panosa forgot my panosa. Now it says I'm going to say him hitu. Your own sins is what caused you to go. From the Rayam and Yichani Kolim Tanim Rayman. I will leave behind all the this is only you can only work while you're young, then you have to retire. I would make this in fact, in Europe, if you're 65 years old, you can be the greatest doctor. I know in Antwerp, the greatest cardiologist was forced to retire. Even here, they force you to retire, so make way for the younger ones. Even though you have experience, accumulative experience that nobody can beat, doesn't matter. I will tell you any case. I met this Laila Adam, Beis Yadusiv, and it says Achimetik Basic Nusay. Oh, you're lucky. They realize how great you are. And nobody can replace you. Torah does not stand. Torah is not like that. It stands for you, and when you're young, and when you're old, it gives you hope. Beis Yadusiv Yalo Evik in the show. You'll have now. We add the extra part of the puzzle. You'll have wings. You'll fly. You'll soar above everybody else. And someone else will finish the end. Between tomorrow and Hashem, tomorrow we begin the Babas, Rabbi Yehuda, always learned only the Zikin. Tomorrow